Hello all, welcome back to one another session. This session is a standalone session. Standalone session in the sense this is not associated with any major subjects, but this is part of art and culture. Okay, art and culture includes various forms, but however, religion, philosophy, architecture, these are all incorporated in the history class, and I have already completed those things as part of the mainstream subject. But however, painting is a subject which I haven't touched in my other sessions during my history classes. So that is the reason I am trying to bring it over here. Okay, so here in this particular class, we will be seeing all sort of things which is associated with the painting. Okay, when there are so many aspects of art and culture, why a specific focus on painting? Why we should have a separate session on painting? I'll tell you why. Because painting doesn't, in most cases, doesn't appear directly in the mainstream subject books. So that is one reason. Okay, so before getting into the session, I'm just reiterating: use a headphone and a notepad and a pen. Okay, so painting doesn't get into the mainstream subject, but however, in the last 3 years, I could able to see a trend that there is one or the other question. One question is definitely coming from painting. So that is the reason I want to make it up as a session and make sure that you people are thorough on the painting part. Whatever the case may be, they ask a question, you should be able to be comfortably answering it. If you couldn't able to answer in spite of preparation after this session, then such a question cannot be answered by anyone in this country in the competitive type. Okay, so see this question which appeared in 2017. The painting of Bodhisattva Padmapani is one of the most famous and oft illustrated paintings at. This is a very easy question for anyone who studied history from our institute, because we know that Ajanta. Okay, but however, few years back there were no much relevance or consideration was given for understanding the elements in these caves. But now we give considerable attention towards all the aspects which is associated with it. Okay, second one, the well-known painting Banitani belongs to which school? So this is a question which came in 2018. And in 2019, if you see that, who among the following Mughal emperors shifted emphasis from illustrated manuscripts to album and individual portraits? So these three questions occurring in consecutively in 3 different years shows that there might be a trend. That might be a trend. We are not very sure, but however, we couldn't able to oversee the trend or the pattern which is just in front of us. So we want to be thorough on this particular topic. So now I'll take you people through Indian painting, which will facilitate you people to make sure that you can comfortably handle the questions. So if you see that painting is normally the current busy people or people who are engaged in terms of lot amount of busy work, they don't have time, energy, or they don't take efforts to admire painting. But painting is something not which is there in a museum where we go and we admire those paintings, but however paintings are readily available in our house, in the form of religious paintings, in the form of floor drawings, as well as many communities in India. They consider painting to be a very vital part of their ritual performances. So painting has been well weaved into the culture of India. So you will understand that how far it has been weaved into the culture of India. In India, community painting reflects the identity of a particular region. By just seeing the painting itself, you could able to identify a particular region. This particular person comes from this particular place. Likewise, we could able to identify the painting by region or by a particular culture. Certain cultures, definitely they will be drawing a specific pattern of painting. For example, when you are going to a either a Brahmin marriage or either an Iyengar marriage or an Iyer marriage or Iyengar marriage or any other marriages, you go there, you see the Rangoli outside. By seeing say that they belong to which particular community. So it's part of a particular culture as well. And painting or Rangoli, all those Mehendi drawing, all those aspects are part of our daily rituals as well. And this painting represents heritage as well. heritage of a particular community. Then it also shows that what is the belief and as well as the characteristics, because being a ritual in several functions and other factors, they use this kind of paintings so to ward off evil spirits and other factors and to bring in good positive vibrations. So these paintings shows the beliefs and characteristics of the people. So Indian community painting reflects the identity of a region, a particular culture, heritage, belief, as well as characteristics. So the paintings can be categorized as permanent painting and impermanent form of paintings. Permanent paintings, forever we just paint a wall or we paint in a particular area. For example, if you see that in temples and other places, we have lot amount of mural paintings. A mural painting is a simple painting, a painting which has been made in a wall. If you even scribble in a wall, that is called as a mural. So mural painting is whatever the painting which is done in a wall. So these are all permanent paintings. Impermanent painting is a temporary in nature. We will be using that particular painting only for a short duration. After that, the painting will be removed after the specific ritual or functions. Okay. Okay. So you see this, these are all, this is a mural. The second painting is a miniature. This is a Rangoli type impermanent painting which will be removed. And if you see that this is a Mehendi painting which is done on hands as part of marriage rituals and other factors. And if you see this particular image, this image is normally used in our houses near the puja area. Okay, so to worship God, we used to create this kind of mural, which is done by hand. Now, no too much of technical and other kind of details are required, but simply the symbols of God is being represented in this kind of painting. So this shows that the painting is normally weaved into the way of life in our Indian culture. Okay, moving forward, if you see that the following are the basic physical components of painting. The physical components of painting is the ground on which the painting is done, whether it is done on a sheet of paper or in any kind of other kind of hide, skin, or whatever it is, or the wall, or in the floor, or in the hand, the human body. Nowadays, if you see that the painting have taken a new form in the form of tattoos. So tattoo painting is also representing a type of cult and the cultural significance of the people. So the culture transforming. Previously there were tattoo, but that is a different kind of tattoo. But now people are getting inspired by new set of tattoos, which is also considered as a painting. So the ground on which the painting is being done, and the colors that make up the painting. Colors that make up the painting, the vibrant colors. Some of the paintings, if you see that, there will be only two colors, the red and a white, or black and white. That's it. And there are few paintings which will be completely colorful with a lot amount of vibrant colors which is used. And the painting must stick with the surface in which the painting is being done. So what kind of glue or adhesive is used, and then what are the tools which is used, whether it is a hand painting. For example, if you see for Rangoli drawing, they don't use any tools, they do it with the hand. But for a miniature, they might use some kind of intricate brushes. For mural painting, it can happen through hand or it can happen through other fashions as well. So these are the basic physical components of painting. Again, in terms of colors, again we have to see that there are two types. One is organic colors and another one is inorganic colors. Organic colors are derived from plants, seeds, and other factors. Inorganic colors are derived from stones and other factors. Okay, so now we shall see what is the antiquity of painting. How old is the Indian paintings? So how long the painting have evolved into our Indian history? Okay, if you see, the first painting was we studied in the primitive rock paintings in Bhimbetka, Mirzapur, and Pachmari. So when we studied the prehistory, in our prehistory class, we saw some of the paintings which happened in the primitive rock paintings of Bhimbetka, Mirzapur, and Pachmari. After the prehistory class, we went on to Indus Valley civilization. During the Indus Valley civilization and during the Vedic period, we saw paintings which were happening in the pots. So painted pottery of Indus Valley civilization with many amount of intricate features, then images of fishes and other factors. Later, the Buddhist text Vinaya Pitaka, it comes up and it explains painting about which were there in the royal buildings. So the paintings in the royal buildings were explained in the Vinaya Pitaka of in Buddhism. So Buddhist art painting was of three different kinds, such as Lepya Chitra. Lepya Chitra is called as folklore. Lekya Chitra, which is called as line drawing, and Dhuli Chitra, painting on floor. Patachitra, cloth-based scroll painting. So here, if you see that Patachitra, patta means the paper. Okay, so the paper or cloth or some kind of sheet in which the painting can be done. That is a Patachitra. Dhuli is the floor. Dhuli Chitra is painting on the floor, either with a permanent paint or through rangoli, such kind of things. Lekya Chitra is a line drawings and painting on textiles. So text in cloths and other images, we have the Lekya Chitra. Then Lepya Chitra is the folklore. That is the painting which happens to represent some sort of stories and other factors. So that is Lepya Chitra. When a story is narrated in a painting, that is a Lepya Chitra. So Lepya Chitra, Lekya Chitra, Dhuli Chitra, Patachitra, these are the different kinds of paintings which is being explained by Buddhism. Okay, but however, at a later point of time, in the 5th century, Vishagadatta, when he wrote his Mudra Rakshasa, he mentions various types of paintings such as Kauka Pitaka, Digala Pitaka, and Yama Pitaka. Kauka Pitaka is isolated framed drawings, Digala Pitaka is long scrolls of painting, and Yama Pitaka is isolated paintings. Okay, and after that, Vatsyayana in his book Kama Sutra, which was written in the 6th century, he speaks about 64 fine arts. The 64 fine arts consist of perfume making, flower arrangement, carpentry, drama, origami. So likewise, he speaks about 64 different fine arts. Of that, he speaks about painting as well. So he says that the prince or princess of any royal family should also learn painting, which is part of the 64 fine arts mentioned by Vatsyayana. So here he elaborates 6 main principles or limbs of painting. So the 6 main principles or limbs of painting is called as Shadanga of paintings. Shada Anga of paintings. This Shada Anga of painting includes Rupa, Pramana, Bhava, Lavanya, Sadrishya, and Varnaki Bangam. So Rupa is shape of form. Pramana, proportion of the object. In what proportion a particular object must be portrayed. Okay, and then Bhava, what kind of emotions it will show. Lavanya, and immersion of emotions, which is overt and covert. That is overt and covert in the sense, if you see that what is the outside emotion which should be shown, and what should be the inside emotion, and what kind of emotion should be created, which should come for the viewer of the painting. Then Sadrishya, determination of real form and similarity. Then Varnaki Bangam speaks about color schemes. So Vatsyayana speaks about 64 fine arts. So if you see that, when if a question is asked in terms of write detailedly about evolution of painting in India, you have to start with the prehistoric painting of Bhimbetka, and you should end up with the latest modern painting, including the tattoos which I told. So in this, you could able to add up these factors: prehistoric painting, Indus Valley Civilization pot painting, and then Vinaya Pitaka's painting, Lekya Chitra, Lepya Chitra. Then you can move on to this Vishagadatta's 3 type of paintings, then Vatsyayana's explanation about painting. After that, Vishnu Dharmotra Purana. So this is one of the Puranas. This Purana has a separate section called Chitra Sutra. So if a question is asked, Chitra Sutra is a separate section in which of the following books? It is Vishnu Dharmotra Purana. In Vishnu Dharmotra Purana, which was written in the 7th century, Vishnu Dharmotra Purana, 6th century, Vatsyayana, 5th century, you have Vishagadatta's Mudra Rakshasa. So I hope that you people remember Vishagadatta, Mudra Rakshasa, and all the associated stories which I already told you. So Vishnu Dharmotra Purana has a section on painting called Chitra Sutra. Chitra Sutra clearly explains about what kind of paintings and what kind of emotions and what kind of colors should be used. All those factors were explained. Now we shall see the correct chronology and classification of Indian painting types. Indian painting types, it starts with prehistoric painting, then cave paintings, which we call it as murals, then miniature paintings. Miniature painting is smaller paintings, and we might assume miniature painting, we call it as because it is smaller in size, minimal size. It is not. Miniature painting is called because they use red color, which is called minium. So because of that reason only they call it as a miniature painting, because in miniature paintings red color dominate. This miniature painting can be further classified. In the east, there was Pala dynasty in the Bengal region. So we have Pala school of art, and in the west, we have Apabramsa school. Apabramsa school, which is in the west, in the Gujarat region. So in the Gujarat region, you have Apabramsa school. In the east, in the Bengal region, you have Pala school of art. Okay, now we shall see other miniature paintings. Other miniature paintings have regional setups. The regional setups are Deccan style, Delhi Sultanate style, Mughal era, and regional school. Deccan style, Delhi Sultanate, Mughal era, and regional schools. So if you see that Deccan style, it comes up with simultaneously during the Bahmani Sultanate and when the Bahmani Sultanate splitted into various Deccan Sultanates. Whatever the style was developed, that is called as Deccan Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate, it is from Qutbuddin Aibak time periods to Ibrahim Lodi time period, whatever which was drawn. Mughal era paintings with a specific attention towards Jahangir in terms of Mughal paintings, and we should also give due respect to Akbar for that part. Then after during the Mughal era, there were several regional areas, as well as after the Mughal era, regional bifurcation of regionalization of politics. For example, I already told you the biryani story, in which the biryani of Mughal biryani splitted into various taste and forms according to regionalization, as Hyderabadi biryani, Ambur biryani, which is the style of Nawab of Arcot. Likewise, regionalization happens. In that regionalization, we have regional schools of paintings. In this regional school of painting, we have a painting type in Tanjavur painting, Pahari painting, Mysore painting, and Rajasthani painting. Here, among these four areas which I speak about, Tanjore, Pahari, Mysore, and Rajasthani, Rajasthani is the one which is one of the largest place, and there were a lot amount of princes who created their own styles. So Rajasthani painting itself has several schools of painting. The several schools of painting are Kishangarh school, Amber and Jaipur school, Bandi school, Mewar school, and Marwar school. So here, see the arrangement of these Indian painting types: prehistoric, cave painting, murals, miniature. In this prehistoric and cave painting murals, you have to add the Indus Valley civilization and Vedic period spot painting. Miniature, miniature again, Pala school in the east and Apabramsa school in the west. Okay, and then the miniature painting in the regional styles. The regional styles are Deccan style, which is dominated by Deccan Sultanates, Bahmani and the Deccan Sultanates, and Vijayanagar Empire. Then Delhi Sultanate, Mughal era, regional schools. In regional schools, we see types of painting in the form of Tanjore, Pahari, Mysore, Rajasthani. This Rajasthani painting is further subdivided into Kishangarh school, Amber and Jaipur school, Amber or Jaipur school, Bandi school, Mewar school, and Marwar school. Okay, now we'll move from miniature painting to modern painting. Modern painting, with the arrival of East India Company, we have a painting form called company painting. Then we have, as a contradiction to the company, certain people went on to come up with other kind of paintings. One such painting is called Kalighat painting, which is famous in Calcutta region. So this Kalighat painting also called as bazaar painting. And then there was one another prince who was very popular in terms of painting, and he is Raja Ravi Verma style. So company painting, bazaar painting, and Raja Ravi Verma painting are paintings which we will be studying here in the form of modern paintings. And then Bengal School of Painting. In Bengal School of Painting, for example, when the nationalism was at its peak, when Indian freedom struggle and the talks about Indian freedom was going on, during the Indian freedom struggle, when Rabindranath Tagore was carrying the spirit of nationalism through his literature, his cousins, Abhinandranath Tagore and Gagendranath Tagore, they went on to come up with a new style of indigenous type of painting. They moved away from the company type of paintings, and they went on to draw inspiration from Ajanta paintings and other traditional ancient Indian paintings. So this comes with Abhinandranath Tagore paintings and other what to say Gagendranath Tagore paintings. So then comes Cubist style and the progressive artist. Progressive artists are the latest artists who come up with the modern art. And then the major, however, whatever we have seen is from the upper echelons. So these are from the ruling area, up down approach. But from the bottom up approach, if you see, there is folk paintings. Folk paintings are the one which really conveys the culture of the people and moods, attitudes, cultural aspects, beliefs of the people. So folk paintings, there are numerous folk paintings. The important folk paintings which we will be studying in this particular session is Madhubani painting, also known as Midila painting, Manjusha painting, also called as Angika painting, Patachitra, Patua, Kalighat, Patikar, Kalamkari, Warli, Tanka painting, then Fud painting, then Cherial scroll painting, Pitora painting, and Saura painting. So these are the paintings which we will be studying about folk paintings. Don't get into a panic mode on seeing all these stuffs. It is very easy. First time when you hear, you will be in a learning mode, and after completing the entire session, you try to recollect information, then you go back and you revise it once or twice, and automatically it will be there in your mind. Okay, but however, when we are ready to study an entire book for 1 or 2 questions, just reading this entire presentation for one question is not a very difficult task. And that too, if you get a question in the main examination on painting, then you could able to bombard with the information and details into that particular answer. That is, your answer will be congested with keywords. Now we shall move forward. Okay, so here if you see that, now we'll get into the prehistoric paintings. Prehistoric painting, actually I'm not going to, I'm not inclined to teach you prehistoric painting, because this has already been covered in our history class. The granite rocks of Karnataka and Andhra were good for good canvases to make the Neolithic man's paintings. There were several such sites, but more famous among them are Kupgalu, Piklihal, and Teklakota. 3 types of paintings have been reported from here: the paintings in white, paintings in red, and or paintings in red ochre. The subjects depicted are bulls, elephants, sambars, gazelles, sheep, goat, horses, stylized humans, tridents, and rarely vegetable motifs. And in NCRT, a lot amount of reference was given to Lakudiyar painting. Lakudiyar, located in Uttarakhand, Lakudiyar paintings. Okay, so you can see that the rock shelters in the banks of river Suyal at Lakudiyar bear prehistoric paintings divided into 3 categories: man, animal, and geographic patterns. Okay, so here this is a Lakudiyar painting which we have already seen in our history class, where there is a group of people who are holding hands, and they are wavy lines which has been mentioned over here. The largest and most spectacular rock shelter is located in Vindhya Hills at Bhimbetka in Ratapani Wildlife Sanctuary at Madhya Pradesh. So remember, Ratapani Wildlife Sanctuary is located in Bhimbetka. This is declared as a World Heritage Sites, and this painting can be seen as Upper Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Chalcolithic. So read it, because I have covered it in our history session, and have a glance on these videos to make your own interpretations on these videos, and what are they trying to represent, And if you see that they were using bow, arrow, as well as swords or stone tools, they are sitting on horse, so which shows that they have tamed the horse by that time. So these are all some of the important factors associated with it. And this is also, if you see that this is a very classic, well geometrically given horse image over here. Okay, now colors which is used in the cave paintings were, the artist of Bhimbetka used many colors including white, red ochre, green, yellow, orange, purple, brown and black. But however, the favorite colors are white and red ochre. The source of color comes from limestone. White comes from limestone, red comes from hematite stone, and chalcedony provides the green color. So, and mixing among these three colors gives other shades. Okay, now we shall get into the cave painting murals, which is very popular in India. So here you people should be studying about the caves as well as the location of those caves. Caves as well as location of the caves. The caves we'll first see about Jogimara cave in Chhattisgarh. Jogimara cave is in Chhattisgarh. Then Ravan Chaya rock shelters. Ravan Chaya rock shelters in Odisha. So Ravan Chaya rock shelters is located in Odisha. Jogimara cave is located in Chhattisgarh. Lepakshi temple. Lepakshi temple is not a cave, but it is a temple. But however, it is very important from the perspective of paintings. So I am giving this detail over here. Lepakshi temple in Andhra Pradesh. Then you have Arma Malai cave in northern Tamil Nadu. Okay, so northern part of Tamil Nadu, Arma Malai caves. And you have one another very important mural painting in caves, which is called as Sittanna Vasal caves. So Jogimara cave in Chhattisgarh, Ravan Chaya rock shelters in Odisha, Lepakshi temple in Andhra Pradesh, Arma Malai cave in Tamil Nadu, Sittanna Vasal caves in Tamil Nadu. And you can see many mural paintings in the Tanjavur Brihadishwara temple as well. I have not mentioned it here, but there are so many mural paintings. In fact, when we are studying about Chola Empire, I told you about Shiva is represented in the form of Tiripurandaka. Okay, and then you have, I hope you people remember where is Badami caves located. We studied about Badami caves, Patadakkal, Aihole, and all those caves. Badami cave is located in Karnataka. Okay, the next one you should be knowing is Elephanta caves in near Mumbai. But Elephanta cave does not have any kind of painting. I'm just putting it here so that you could able to locate it. Okay, when we are seeing so much of caves, I just thought of giving you the information of where the Elephanta cave is located. Okay, then Ellora caves in Aurangabad in Maharashtra. Then Ajanta caves in the same district, Aurangabad. Then you have Bagh caves in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, so try to recollect. Okay, we'll start with Jogimara caves. Where is Jogimara cave? Jogimara cave in Chhattisgarh. Then what cave we saw in Odisha? Ravan Chaya rock shelters. Then we saw about a temple in Andhra Pradesh. What is a temple? Lepakshi temple. Then two places in Tamil Nadu. One is Arma Malai cave and another one is Sittanna Vasal caves. And we saw another caves in Badami caves. Then we saw Elephanta, Ellora and Ajanta. All the three are located in Maharashtra. Elephanta is a kind of island kind of cave structure, and whereas Ellora and Ajanta are located in the Aurangabad district in Maharashtra. Then we saw one cave in Madhya Pradesh, which is Bagh cave. So all except Elephanta caves over here, all the other caves are having paintings. Okay, so first we shall start with the Jogimara cave. Jogimara cave have a cave as well as it has an amphitheater. Amphitheater means it is considered as the oldest amphitheater which has ever been discovered in India. What is an amphitheater? It is like a open air theater. It is like a open air theater where there will be a small stage and there will be steps kind of structure where people can sit and observe, or as a spectator they could able to observe the performance which is happening over there. So this Jogimara cave and Jogimara cave has another cave which is called Sita Bengra cave. So this is an artificially carved out cave located in Chhattisgarh. Jogimara cave and Sita Bengra cave. Sita Bengra cave is the one which is having a amphitheater, and also it is having some inscriptions as well. Okay, so Sita Bangara Cave is an amphitheater. So it has pre-Buddha paintings, which is 300 BC to as back as 1000 BC. The roof of the cave has some 7 paintings, which include the human figures, fish, and elephants. These are 2 layers of painting in it. So this is an inscription in the Jogimara cave. The inscription is of 5 lines. It's a 5-line inscription in Brahmi, speaks about love between Devadina and Sutanuka, a Devadasi. So there are certain paintings which is there in the Jogimara cave. Okay, so these paintings are depends upon previous lives of Buddha and such kind of things. Now we go to the next cave, which is Odisha, in Odisha. What is a cave which is located in Odisha? Ravan Chaya rock shelters. Ravan Chaya rock shelters in Odisha. It is fresco painting on rock shelters are in shape of half opened umbrella. The rock shelter is in the shape of half opened umbrella. This place acted like a royal hunting lodge. The most noticeable painting is that of a royal procession that dates back to 7th century. The remains of Chola period paintings belonging to 11th century are also important in this place. The remains of Chola period paintings also very important in this place. So there are some fresco paintings in this Ravan Chaya rock shelters. So Ravan Chaya, because if they are asking a plain question, which of the following place has paintings, which of the rock shelters has paintings? So at the time you should be able to identify which has painting and which does not. Okay. The next one is Lepakshi temple in Andhra Pradesh. If you see Lepakshi temple or Veerabhadra temple in Lepakshi, it has huge wall painting, wall murals. If you see here, this is it's a narration of story. The entire wall is having a continuous painting. So this has been well. It's not amateurish. It is very professional painting which has been done to narrate story of Shiva. Okay, the mural paintings executed on Veerabhadra temple walls at Lepakshi in 16th century during Vijayanagara period. So religion themes based on Ramayana, Mahabharata and incarnations of Vishnu, and displays complete absence of primary colors, especially blue. So this is a very important factor which has to be noted. Okay, so although it speaks about Vishnu and Shiva and other related stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, the displays completely lack a primary color which is blue. Depicts decline in quality of painting. Probably it should have been painted at the later part of the Vijayanagara Empire. Now we move on to Arma Malai Caves. Arma Malai Cave is located in which place? Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, we have Arma Malai Cave and Sittanavasal Cave. So Arma Malai Cave, this is the painting you can see in Arma Malai Cave. You see lack of protection of painting. The paintings have been significantly damaged. Okay, so these Arma Malai caves are natural caves which were converted into Jain temple in 8th century. Okay, so they used unbaked mud structures located within the cave, which acts like a resting place of Jain saints. So Armavalai cave is a Jain cave, Jaina cave. The painting depicts the tales of Ashtatik Balakas. That is the guardian of 8 corners, deities protecting the 8 corners, and Jainism. So the paintings are Ashtatik Balaka painting as well as Jain painting. Not only Armamalai cave has Jain painting and it acted as a Jain rest house, even Sittanavasal is having Jain paintings. Okay, Sittanavasal, also known as Arivar Koyil in Tamil Nadu. If you see, that particular place have a very close relevance to Bagh and Ajanta painting. Paintings on both walls and ceilings are there as well as in pillars. So entire area is painted, walls, ceilings as well as pillars. The central element of the paintings in Sittanavasal is a pond, lotus pond painting. How, if we see that Padmapani painting is a very famous painting, Padmapani painting and Vajrapani painting is very famous painting in Ajanta cave. Likewise, lotus pond painting is a very famous painting in Sittanavasal. So it has a pond. You can see that in the pond there are a lot amount of lotuses. So there are flowers, fishes, and there is a monk who is collecting the lotus. So there are so many other features. Then theme of Jaina Samavasaran preaching hall. Samavasarana is a special hall where Tirthankaras delivered sermon and after attaining the Kevala Jnana. So Ajanta caves. Ajanta caves were carved in 4th century AD out of volcanic rocks. Okay, so if you see here, so now we shall see about the Ajanta caves. Ajanta caves we have seen from the architectural perspective. Okay, guys, since I moved on to Ajanta, I just want to make it very clear that in Sittanavasal cave and Arivar Koil, Sittanavasal caves in Arivar Koil, the lotus pond is a very, very famous painting. So there can always be a question which can speak about the lotus pond painting, where this lotus pond painting is found in which of the following caves. As well as you can see that the theme of Jain Samavasaran preaching hall. Samavasarana is a special hall where Tirthankaras delivered sermon after attaining Kevalanyana. So this is that particular place where a theme is being set up, and you can see lot amount of characteristics, including ladies are hearing the sermons and other factors. So be very clear on where Armamalai cave and where is Sittanavasal cave is located. Now we shall move on to Ajanta caves. Ajanta caves were carved in the 4th century AD out of a volcanic rock. So it consists of a set of 29 caves carved in horseshoe shaped. You see the cave, now the number of caves, it depends upon the book which you read. In some caves they will say 28, and some caves even they go to more than 29. So for now, consider it as 29 caves carved in horseshoe shape. Murals in these caves belong to different period. Cave, so in various time period, if you see that Ajanta cave is an outcome of two different periods. One is in BC and another one is in AD. So during the Vakataka period itself, it should have been started, as well as during the what to say that. At a later point of time, during the Rashtrakrita's time period as well as Chalukya time period, it should have got into very much of prominence. So there are two levels. So cave number 1 and 2 are the most recent of the caves of Ajanta. The walls of the caves have both murals and fresco. They use a style called tempera style, use of pigments. Okay, tempera style is a use of pigments. So these are the images which you can see in the Ajanta caves. So the images which you can see in the Ajanta caves are, this is Padmapani holding a lotus. This is Vajrapani. And this is again some sort of images which you see here. You can see an elephant. If you look detailedly, you can see an elephant. Here, if you see that one particular prince who got affected, for example, it is Shibi Jataka and Matra Poshaka Jataka. So where he gives a piece of flesh to the eagle, which asks for which tries to capture another bird, but to save the bird, Sibi Chakravarti, he gives his flesh to the eagle. So those paintings are displayed in this particular Ajanta caves. So important paintings of Ajanta are Jataka stories, Buddhist former life of Bodhisattva, both in human and animal forms, or life of Gautama Buddha. Then Bodhisattva in Tribhanga pose. Tribhanga poses three curves. So this Tribhanga pose in cave 1 has three people, Vajrapani, Manjushri and Padmapani. Okay, then the dying princess in cave 16 and the Shibi Jataka, and then Matri Poshaka Jataka. These are the paintings which is there in Ajanta. The characteristics of Ajanta painting are, they portray human values and social fabric. You can see all sort of people in the Ajanta paintings, and then emotions are expressed through hand gestures. In fact, the beauty is even animals show emotions in Ajanta painting. All figures have unique hairstyle. So that is also a creativity. Common among them are from Jataka stories to life of Buddha. Elaborate flora and fauna decorative patterns are found in the Ajanta paintings. But the sad fact is, It is not being maintained very well. Of course, now they are maintaining it. Now Archaeological Survey of India took control over it and it is maintaining it. In fact, if we go there now, hardly we can see the painting because there is no light, and Archaeological Survey of India does not allow us to use a torch or cell phone light to see the painting, because there is a high chance the light may fade away the paintings. So considering that factor, they are not allowing us to use this. But however, there is a, in Doordarshan, they used to put a series where one particular time lights were used to photograph the painting. Using that photographs in Doordarshan, they use computer adjustments to show the kind of paintings which would have been. Another thing is, now the painting which a plaster is created, since it's a fresco kind of painting where a plaster is created on the wall, it is made to dry and then they paint it so that the paint can seep into the structure. Now what is happening is there are some water is seeping in the caves. So the seeping water is also damaging these paintings. So these are all some problems associated with maintaining the ancient paintings in India. Okay, now moving forward, we will see Ellora caves. The moment I speak about Ellora caves, you should be thinking about Danti Durga, Krishna too, his uncle, and Krishna too, who built the famous temple. What is the temple? Yes, Kailasnatha temple, the largest monolithic temple in Ellora caves. So Ellora caves is a place, location of composite culture. Composite culture in the sense it has Buddhist caves, Jaina caves, as well as Hindu caves. Okay, but Ajanta is a place where you could able to see only Buddhist caves. Ellora cave paintings are related to all three religion, found in 5 caves, mostly limited to Kailasha temple. 2 phases of painting during the carving time period and at a later point of time. The earlier paintings show Vishnu with his consort and the Garuda. Later shows Gujarati style depicting procession of Shiva as a holy man. Some prominent paintings in Ellora are Goddess Lakshmi and Goddess Vishnu, and images of Lord Shiva with his followers, beautiful and gracious Apsaras dancing. Okay, now we'll move on to Bagh caves. Bagh cave, if you see that Bagh cave is located in Madhya Pradesh, so this is the painting which is there. Okay, so Bagh cave paintings. Bagh cave paintings represent extension of Ajanta school. So they use several factors which is associated with Ajanta style. Eyes half opened, showing expressions likewise. Figures are more tightly modeled with a stronger outline. Both religious and secular paintings can be found. And the cave for Rang Mahal has several Buddhist and Jataka tales. Okay, now Badami caves. In Badami caves, this is the painting we can see. You can see a face over here, as well as a face over here. Okay, here Badami caves are famous for sculptures. There are so much of sculptures, and one of the very famous sculpture which we saw in our class is Hari Hara. That is Hari as well as Hara, both Shiva as well as Vishnu representing a composite religious form. So Badami caves are famous for sculptures. One of the earliest surviving Hindu paintings resembles a tradition of a Ajanta and a Bagh compassionate look in human figures and half closed eyes with protruding lips. Important paintings are four-armed Brahma on a swan, Shiva and Parvati, Jaina saints giving up their worldly life. All these are found in Badami. Now we are done with mural. We shall go into miniature paintings. When we speak about miniature painting, paintings which is in the form of frames. Either it will be in a patta, that is a sheet where you could able to hang it like a screen. Okay, or it will be in a framed structure where you could able to hang it as a frame. Okay, so those are miniature paintings. So these are the miniature paintings. So you can see that a huge fort over here and a procession which is happening over here, and this is a darbar which is happening, and other activity which is happening away from darbar, and a group of people who are discussing. So a lot amount of representation is given, but normally a miniature painting has a border, and it will be either printed in a piece of cloth or leather skin, or it will be in a sheet of paper which will be framed. Okay, so miniature painting is called as miniature because they use red color, which is called minium. Okay, in Latin, minium means red lead paint. Since they are using red lead paint, they call it as a which is minium, which is that is the reason they call it as a miniature. These are small detailed paintings. Painting should not be larger than 25 square inch. So the painting size should not be larger than 25 square inch. And another important factor which is associated with miniature is the each character, its size should not be larger than 1/6 of the actual size of the person, real person. If the real person's size is 60 inches height, imagine. So the image which is being painted in the miniature should not be larger than 10 inches. So if a person is 60 inches height, then his image should not be larger than 10 inches height. So the subject of the painting should be painted in not more than 1/6 of the actual size. Miniature painting developed around 8th and 12th century. There are two schools, one from west and other from east. I have already told you, in east the miniature painting is from Pala school, and in west we have Apabramsa. Apabramsa means ungrammatical. So Apabramsa school uses various types, and it is a confluence of various paintings. But Pala school is a bit puristic. So other schools included in miniature are Mughal regionals as well. Okay, so the technique of miniature painting I have given here. So just give a reading when I share the presentation. Now the technical rule we have already seen the technical rule. It should not be larger than 25 square inch. The subject must not be larger than 1/6 of its original size. Paintings are not merely about size, but also the level of details which differentiates. And miniature is derived from minium, which is called as red lead paint. Now we'll go to features of Indian miniature paintings. Most human characters are shown in the side profile. This is a very, very important factor in miniature painting. If you are writing something on miniature painting, you should speak about two things. One is half opened eyes, and another one is side profile of the people. Even in the previous in this particular image, you can't see even a single man who's facing straight on you. Everyone will be on the side profile. That is, the face will be on the side profile. It will be turned, or the full body would have been turned. So the features of Indian miniature painting is eyes will be big, and the nose will be pointed noses, big eyes, half closed eyes, and most human characters are shown with a side profile. Women will have a slim waist, and they will have a long hair in the presentation. Skin will be brown except Krishna's skin. When Krishna is depicted, the skin will be blue, and normally hair and eye they use it as black. Traditional Indian dress, and mostly men will be wearing a turban in almost all the paintings. The occasions where men will occur bareheaded is very minimal. Initially, natural colors were used, but later they tried using synthetic colors. Famous painters are Vachak, Nihal Chand. So these are some of the famous, because these two names are given in NCERT, so I am giving here, although not very important. Now we shall see the difference between the two schools of miniature painting, Pala school and Apabramsa school. Pala school in the east in Bengal region, Apabramsa school in the west in Gujarat region. Apabramsa school 11th to 15th century, it flourished in Mewar and Gujarat region. The theme of the painting is mostly from Jaina and Vaishnava themes, and Gita Govinda is a major theme under which these paintings were made. So the characteristics of the paintings are mural in reduced dimension. So it is literally like a mural painting in a reduced dimension. Fish-shaped bulging eyes, pointed nose, and double chin. Angular faces, use of bright and gold colors. Figures are stiff. Animals and birds represented as toys. Famous examples are Kalpasutra, Kalakacharya Katha. If you see that, you can if you collect certain common factors and if you write it in your book, you can use it as a joker. Any question which has been asked about the painting, you could able to use trying to explain all these features. The same kind of parallelism you can use it in terms of explaining the sculptures in as well. For example, curly hair, eyes half closed, or eyes in like a fish. So likewise, you could able to explain. Pala school flourished between 750 to 1150 AD. Lonely human figures, and rarely they paint groups. Found mainly in manuscripts, initially done on palm leaf, later on vellum paper. The themes are predominantly Buddhism and Hinduism. So, of course, Pala dynasty is predominantly a Buddhist dynasty. So, characterized by, because you would have seen Vikramashila, Nalanda, and other areas were funded or established by Vadantapuri. All these places were established or funded by Pala dynasty. So, their themes are Buddhist and Hinduism. Then characterized by sinuous lines and subdued tones on background imagery. Okay. Proponents of Vajrayana school of Buddhist also patronized these paintings. Prominent painters were Dimman and Vittapala. Okay, not very important, but just give a reading so that if you see it in the preliminary examination paper, at least you could able to find out what is what. Now we will go to the miniature painting of Delhi Sultanate. Okay, in Delhi Sultanate, Nimmat Nama. Nimmat Nama is a book on cookery, is a classic example of paintings. After Nimmat Nama, there is a style of painting which is called as Lodi Kuladar. Lodi Kuladar painting. This was prevalent during the Sultanate period from Delhi to Jaunpur. Later, several new styles emerged such as Mughal style, Deccan and Rajput styles. In miniature in Mughal era, the emperors Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan patronized highly skilled painters. In fact, even Humayun, when he came from his exile and took back the throne, he also brought some painters. Okay, the emperors Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan patronized highly skilled painters who primarily illustrated manuscripts containing historical records and poetry. I already told you there is Kitab Khana. Kitab Khana, which was established in Fatehpur Sikri, Akbar, what he did was he made, there are a lot amount of the calligraphists who first write it, and they will leave space for people to, artists to make painting, and in that space the artist will make painting. So those were illustrated manuscripts. These had the following features. They were generally painted in brilliant colors and mostly portrayed court scenes, scenes of battle or hunting, and other aspects of social life. Moving forward, Hamza Nama, a collection of 1200 paintings belong to this period. Razam Nama, which is a Persian translation of Mahabharata, contains lavish illustrations of Mahabharata. And Mughal painting, however, reached its zenith during Jahangir, because he instead of using painting for manuscript purposes, he moved from the manuscript to illustration, huge illustration paintings as well as portraits. So portrait painting as well as giving a halo effect around the king, showcasing the divine right of the king to rule the country. So this is the contribution of Jahangir. But however, other factors of painting, you refer to our Mughal class notes and class presentation for other details. Miniature Deccan style. The miniature painting style, which flourished initially in the Bahmani court and later in the courts of Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda. This is popularly called as Deccan School of Painting. So Deccan School of Painting consists of Bahmani Sultanate painting. After the Bahmani Sultanate broke down into 5 different groups. These 5 different groups, Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda, all these things had their own respective taste of painting. So these are the people. Okay, so this is the last in our priority in this entire presentation. So don't spend much time in terms of reading this. Okay, but however, if you see that this particular painting is a very famous painting, which is called as Lady with Maina Bird. Okay, so this lady with Maina bird, if you because most probably if they are asking, they might ask it in the main examination on the Deccan or regional style. At that time, you can mention this painting, lady with Maina bird painting, which is part of Golconda paintings. But you should know what is a Deccan painting. Deccan painting is Bahmani court painting, which further divided into Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda, and later Hyderabadi style as well. Okay, then miniature painting, regional schools, Mysore painting. Mysore painting is an outcome of Vijayanagara Empire. The distinct school of Mysore painting evolved from the paintings of Vijayanagara times during the reign of Vijayanagara kings. With the fall of Vijayanagara Empire in the Battle of Talikota, the artists were till then under royal patronage. They moved to other places. One group of people came and settled in Tanjore. Another group of people went and settled in Mysore. So now this Vijayanagara school splitted into Tanjore painting and Mysore paintings. So they use what the gesso work was a hallmark of traditional paintings of Karnataka. Gesso refers to paste mixture of white lead powder, gambus and glue, which is used as an embossing material. But if you this happens in Karnataka, that is the painting looks with an embossing effect because of that gesso work, gesso work. But this is not the case in Tanjore. In Tanjore, what they do is they put real kind of jewelry material, glass pieces, as well as gold or other metal work, which will be done in the Tanjore. So Tanjore painting and Mysore painting is an outcome of Vijayanagara kings. After the Vijayanagara kings fall down in Battle of Talikota, these painters moved away to Mysore and Tanjore, who create distinct styles of painting. This is Tanjore painting. Tanjore painting elaborately has jewelries. Tanjore painting is an interesting combination of art and craft. So it is a combination of art and craft that grew in the region of Tanjavur, Tamil Nadu, under the Maratha influence. Because at that point of time, Marathas were here. The main colors are red, yellow, black, and white. Red, yellow, black, and white. The distinctive features were aristocratic or religious figures adorned with jewelry and surrounded by elaborate architectural arches and doorways. So you can see almost all the Tanjavur paintings will have this arch. Okay, arch which is elaborately ornamented, and even the image which is being projected is also well ornamented. Door are originally done on wood, but with encrusted semi-precious stones. But now they are doing it in glass, and even in glass they are doing it in a reverse painting. That is, the painting is on the reverse side of the glass, and this is one of the creative art which is done by in the Tanjore school. The next one is Pahari school. Pahari school, if you see that, it was during the time period when there were certain disturbances in Delhi. The painters escaped to hilly regions and to the Rajasthan and other regions. So either they went and they got into the support of some Rajput princes, or they escaped to the hilly areas to avoid persecution. That is where comes the Pahari school. Pahari school is associated with sub-Himalayan states. So when we speak about Pahari school of painting, you should immediately understand it is the north, sub-Himalayan states. Pahari school can be categorized into two categories. One is Jammu and Dogra school. Another one is Basholi and Kangra school. Basholi and Kangra in the northern region, the northernmost part, Jammu and Dogra school, and in that Kangra region, that is Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, in those regions, you have Basholi and Kangra school. So, Pahari school is an outcome of artists from the Mughal court and other courts escaping to mountainous regions, sub-Himalayan states. There they created the Pahari school. Pahari school further subdivided into Jammu and Dogra school and Basholi and Kangra school. So there are various schools, Basholi, these are all outcomes of this Pahari school. Okay, so Basholi and Kangra, you just read this content in which I have explained why these poets escaped during Nadir Shah's invasion, and how they evolved into these kind of schools, Basholi and Kangra. You just read it. It is just 2 minutes you could able to make a reading. Now we'll go to Rajasthan School of Painting. So now moving forward, we will see about the Rajasthan School of Painting. I told you Rajasthan School of Painting itself had several forms of painting, such as Amber and Jaipur painting, Kishanga painting, Mewar painting, Marwar painting, Bandi painting, Bandi school likewise. So in Jaipur region, we have Amber and Jaipur school. Okay, so following that, we have in Ajmer. I hope that you people remember what is there in Ajmer. What is there in Jaipur? You have Sambar Lake in Jaipur, and in Jaipur we have Amber and Jaipur School. In Ajmer, the famous Moinuddin Chishti Saint Dargah is located in Sufi Saint Dargah is located in Ajmer. So in Ajmer, they follow what is called as Kishanga School. Kishanga School painting is associated with Ajmer. Okay, in Jaipur they have Amber and Jaipur School. So Kishanga School is associated with Ajmer. Then Bandi painting is associated with Bandi School. So Bandi painting is associated with Bandi School. Then you have Mewar region. Mewar region has Mewar School. Mewar region, this is the Mewar region. Mewar region has a Mewar School, and Marwa region has Marwa School. Okay, Marwa region has Marwa School. So these are the various types of schools in Rajasthan, which includes Amber and Jaipur School painting, Kishanga School, Bandi School, Mewar School, and Marwar School. So if you see here, Maru and Gurjar painting is one term which collectively denotes all the painting types in Rajasthan. That is, Maru and Gurjar paintings is a collective term for Rajasthan. The Rajasthani paintings are broadly of two types. One is courtly and another one is literary. Factors contributed greatly to the development of Rajasthani paintings are, they are rich. The commercial community of Rajputana was economically prosperous, and also the revival of Vaishnavism and the growth of Bhakti cult provided a direction to the development of distinct school. Interaction with Mughals greatly. Interaction with Mughals, you know that Akbar married a Rajput princess, and even Jahangir married a Rajput princess. So there is a lot amount of interaction with the Mughals. So that greatly influenced the schools of painting in terms of sharing the best practices. The four principal schools under the Rajasthani paintings are Mewar School, Marwar School, Hadoti School, and Dundar School. So these are the four major schools of painting, and types are also located over here. So you just give a reading on that part. Okay, now we shall see the most important schools and types of painting in the Rajasthani style. So if you see here, this particular painting, which predominantly speaks about Krishna. So this is a Kishanga painting. Kishanga painting is associated with Ajmer. Kishanga painting, 18th century school of Rajasthani style of Indian painting. The school is distinguished in an individualistic facial type and its religious intensity. So the brilliant series of paintings are Radha Krishna. So Kishanga Krishna, you associate with that. The brilliant series of paintings on the Radha Krishna theme were due to largely to the inspiration of Raja Savant Singh. And here you have to note down one important point. Kishanga painting is associated with Ajmer. Kishanga painting is an inspiration which Raja Savant Singh had on Radha Krishna theme. Okay, so in this case, what happened was, Savant Singh fell in love with a singer in the employ of his stepmother called Bani Tani. And it is speculated that her features may have been the model for Kishanga facial paintings. So here, two things to be noted. Raja Savant Singh was inspired or impressed on two factors. One is Radha Krishna theme. Another one is the lady called Bani Tani, who's a singer. So Raja Savant Singh incorporated both the features of the lady Bani Tani into the Radha Krishna theme of paintings. So it is imagined that Bani Tani, the lady of fashion, Bani Tani should be having this kind of eyes, the eyes with a very narrow eyes, but elongated eyes. Naturally eyes will be round, but here the eyes looks very narrow but stretched like a fish. Okay, and the pointed nose and such kind of drawings. So this Banitani lady of fashion style is a outcome of Raja Savant Singh's inspiration over a love for that lady called Banitani, and his inspiration towards Radha Krishna theme. So the factors which you people should be remembering here is, Kishanga painting is associated with Ajmer. Kishanga painting speaks about Krishna and Radha theme, Radha Krishna theme, and this is out of an inspiration of Raja Savant Singh. Raja Savant Singh fell in love with a lady called Banitani. So this type of painting is also called as Banitani painting. Okay, Nihal Chand, a gifted artist in the Maharaja's court, produced the most sophisticated works. The next Rajasthani painting we are going to discuss is about Amber and Jaipur school. So Amber and Jaipur school painting, if you see that Amber, the king of Amber, Raja Barmal, is the father of Jodhabai, who was married to Akbar in 1562. So Raja Barmal of Amber, and Raja Barmal's grandson is called as Raja Mansingh. Do you remember who is Raja Mansingh? Raja Mansingh is one of the Navaratna in Akbar's court. Okay, so this Raja Mansingh, the origin of Amber and Jaipur paintings dates back to Raja Mansingh. When we speak about Kishanga painting, we speak about Raja Savant Singh. Here, Raja Mansingh, who's one of the Navaratna, he is instrumental in bringing the Amber and Jaipur paintings. So these are some of the examples of Jaipur paintings. Popular themes illustration of Ragamala, Bhagavata Purana, and Baramasa are popular themes. Maharaja Savai Jai Singh. Savai Jai Singh, you people remember that astronomical places, observatories have been built by Raja Savai Jai Singh of Jaipur, and he is the one who built the planned city of Jaipur. Savai Pratap Singh is the most popular promoter of Amber Jaipur School. It is told that Amber Jaipur School has paintings in Chaura Panchasika style. So if we want to remember Bandi school, Banitani painting, we should associate it with Kishanga school. Then we should include Chaura Panchasika style with Amber and Jaipur school. Okay, so Amber and Jaipur school has Chaura Panchasika style. Okay, Banitani painting style associated with Kishanga school. Kishanga school in Ajmer, Amber and Jaipur in Amber and Jaipur. Now we'll go to Bandi school. Bandi school painting, Bandi for its strategic location, that is on the edge where it can be connected with Gujarat, Maharashtra as well as Madhya Pradesh. That is the strategic location in which Bandi is located. So Bandi for its strategic location has natural advantage of attracting talented painters from many places. A painting showing Bhairavi Ragini in the Allahabad Museum is one of the earliest examples of Bandi painting. Some examples are an illustrated manuscript of Bhagavata Purana in Kota Museum and Rasiga Priya in National Museum. Okay, but Bandi painting is associated with Rajasthan school. Just remember that. Then miniature painting in Mewar school. The earliest examples are Ragamala, and the Marwar school. You have certain types in Marwar school paintings as well. Okay, not much important on that area from the examination perspective. Now we move on to modern paintings. Modern paintings are we saw about company painting, bazaar painting, and Raja Ravi Verma painting. In modern, when East India Company came, they painted, they employed so much of people who could able to paint landscapes and other factors. The colonial rule introduces several new art form styles, materials, and techniques, which were creatively adapted by Indian artists. So the European style of painting idea brought realism and oil painting. Realistic painting or realism means just drawing what is real. Okay. So they brought realism. Realism means faithfully drawing what the eye saw. So European artists brought with them the idea of realism. The artist product was expected to look real and lifelike. So along with them, they brought the technique of oil painting, and oil painting enabled artists to produce images that looked real. European painters varied in different subjects, but everyone portrayed the British superiority. So that one thing they made it very clear that whatever we draw, we should maintain the British superiority. So what they portrayed can be categorized into three types. The imperial tradition of art, the three types of pictures landscape. Pictures landscape is just producing the pictures landscape like hills, plants, and water bodies likewise. The next one is Thomas Daniel and his nephew William Daniel. These two people are very prominent drawers, who the painters on the of pictures landscape. If you see almost all the images which you see in NCERT books which has a nature as a theme. It was drawn by Thomas Daniel and William Daniel. Similarly, portrait painting. Portrait painting paints the colonial portrait, life-size images. If you go to Madras University Library, museum, or any other place, you can see big image of the viceroy or other people. Okay, so that is a portrait. That portrait image, the experts in terms of drawing portrait is John Zoffany, Tilly Kettle, and George Willison. Again, all the paintings, portrait paintings which you see in NCERT books are drawn by these three people. And the third one is historic paintings, recording the historical events. Okay, so just showcasing, for example, if a particular war ended, then they showcase as if the lost person submitting himself to the East India Company. So the famous people who draw this kind of painting is Francis Hayman, David Bickey, and Farrington. So the pictures landscape will look like this. Thomas Daniel and nephew William Daniel drew this. Portrait paintings. This is a perfect example of portrait painting. This portrait painting, these portrait paintings were done by John Zoffany, Tilly Kettle, and George Willison. These are historic paintings or history paintings, where here if you see that General Baird capturing Tipu Sultan and recovering his body. This is an image of Battle of Poliur. Here if you see that, I hope this is Shuja'ud-Dawla who submits himself in front of the British army after the Battle of Buxar. So these are some of the history paintings which were done by Francis Hayman, David Bickey, and G. Farrington. The next modern art type is Raja Ravi Verma's time. Raja Ravi Verma, if you see Raja Ravi Verma, he belongs to Travancore, princely state, was one of the first artists who tried to create a style that was both modern as well as national. So Raja Ravi Verma have drawn so much of things, and if you see that he mastered the Western art of oil painting, and he used oil painting and realistic life study, but painted themes from Indian mythology. So that is a beautiful initiative which was made by him. He used the portrait method and what to say that he used the portrait method and oil painting to bring real life like structure. But when he was drawing, he picked the images and theme from ancient Indian mythology. So these are the mythological paintings. If you see that some few years back, these paintings were very prominent because many silk saree producers took up these themes and they used it for painting. Used these for weaving the images in the sarees. But now if you see that I hope in the last 2 or 3 months, this painting became again very popular because the photographer Venkatram, he photographed Samantha, Kushbu, Ramya Krishnan and other people in the same images by recreating Raja Ravi Verma's one. But however, I prefer Raja Ravi Verma painting is much better than the photographs, the modern photographs. Okay, so the modern bazaar painting. Now we shall see about modern bazaar painting. Bazaar painting in Kalighat region is an intermediary between traditional folk paintings and modern paintings. However, we shall see about bazaar painting when we are studying about Kalighat painting. Now we'll move to nationalist paintings. Nationalist, I told you about two people. One is Abhinendranath Tagore and Gagendranath Tagore. This is Abhinendranath Tagore. In Bengal, a new group of nationalist artists gathered around Abhinendranath Tagore, the nephew of Rabindranath Tagore. They rejected the art of Ravi Verma because Ravi Verma was using oil painting and he borrowed certain features from the Western culture. So they created their own style. So they rejected the art of Ravi Verma as imitative and westernized, and they declared that such a style was unsuitable for depicting the nation's ancient myth and legends. So they broke away from the convention of oil painting and realistic style and turned for inspiration from Ajanta, Ellora, such kind of paintings from the Indian traditions. And they did not simply follow it, but they gave three-dimensional effect for the same Ajanta paintings and other paintings. Okay, so and also what happened was, at that point of time, a famous Japanese artist, he came. So they took advice from the Japanese artist and incorporated those things. So Abhinandranath Tagore painting did not used paintings, oil paints, as well as they did not took inspiration from the realism. So it is not realism. It did not use oil painting, but they tried to take inspiration from the ancient Indian traditions like Ajanta paintings, and they included two factors. One is the learnings which they took from Japan, and another one is that they tried to incorporate three-dimensional effects into these paintings. So if you see here, this is the influence of Rajput miniature. This is the influence of Japanese painting, and this is an influence of the style of Ajanta. If you see the style of Ajanta, this image looks very similar to an Ajanta painting, but this is having a three-dimensional effect. Then there came one another school which is called Bengal. In the Bengal school, it's a Bengal school. This Bengal school is called as Cubist style. They broke away from all the traditional factors and they went on to Cubist style. The Cubist style, in the sense, they used geometrical figures to make up the painting. You can see this Krishna painting is predominantly made of squares, rectangle, triangle, and all the other factors. And also, this painting is having an embossing effect. Cubism is an early 20th century art movement which brought European painting and sculpture historically forward toward 20th century modern art. So this is a modern art. The movement was pioneered by Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque. In India, Cubist style was followed by Gaganendranath Tagore, followed by the theory of Cezanne, and resolved his shapes into cones, cylinders, and was known as Cubist. So Gaganendranath Tagore is a famous Cubist style painter. Okay. Then modern art, progressive art. Progressive artists, what they did was they broke away from all the rules and regulations and they started drawing in the various formats in which they came up. Sometimes they also even picture radicalist ideas in their paintings and they call themselves as progressive artists. The progressive artist group called as PAG was a group mainly based in Bombay from its formation in 1947, though it lacked any particular style because they broke away from all the styles and they wished to draw whatever they wished to draw. Okay, there been a move towards synthesis of influences from Indian artistry together with styles prevalent in Europe, North America, during the first half of the 20th century, including Cubism, Expressionism, Post-Impressionism. The famous painters are F.N. Souza, S.H. Raza, M.F. Hussain. You would have heard about M.F. Hussain. Now M.F. Hussain is no more. He died, but he was in news very much for many years back, almost 8 years back. He was very much in news because he accepted the nationality of Qatar. After that, M.F. Hussain, but however, he did not renunciated the Indian nationality. Okay, but at that point of time, he was very famous in the papers. M.F. Hussain, who was a progressive artist. Now, after doing away with mural painting, miniature painting, and modern paintings, now we will get into the folk paintings. Folk paintings include folk paintings in the sense that all the local people, tribal people, other people who use it for various religious and cultural purposes. The folk paintings include Madhubani, Manjusha, Patachitra, and all sort of paintings. We will see one by one. The main important factor is, is there any other name for this folk painting? Where is it located? Those are the very important factors. And hardly, if you have time, you can see the image and try to absorb, try to identify. When you see that image, you should be able to identify that this is the folk painting. For example, when I went to Bombay, when I saw a particular painting, I could able to identify that is a Varli painting. Okay, similarly, when we see other sort of paintings, when we see snakes types of painting, we should be able to identify what it is. So we will see it now. Okay, so here, if you see that Madhubani painting and Manjusha painting is associated with Bihar. Okay, if you see that Bihar is the region which is associated with Mithila. Mithila in ancient history we studied, it is the place of Sita in Ramayana. So Mithila is a place which comes for Madhubani painting and Manjusha painting. Okay, so Madhubani painting is called as Mithila painting. Manjusha painting, we will see it is called as Angika painting. So Madhubani and Manjusha painting is associated with Bihar. Patua art or Kalighat painting. Patua art and Kalighat painting is associated with Bengal. Patikar painting is associated with Jharkhand. Patachitra and Saura painting is associated with Odisha. Kalamkari painting is associated with Andhra Pradesh. You have Kalameluthu in Kerala. Cheriyal scroll painting in Telangana. And you have Warli painting in Maharashtra. Pithora painting in place located around Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. Fud painting in Rajasthan. Tanka painting in the Himachal region, Himalaya region. So Tanka painting into, you could able to, since it is a hilly region painting specifically oriented towards Buddhist followers. So you can see Tanka painting both in Himachal Pradesh as well as in Arunachal Pradesh. So Tanka painting can be seen in Himachal Pradesh as well as in Arunachal Pradesh. But if I say Himachal Pradesh, what painting comes to your mind? Pahari school of painting, Basholi and Kangra painting. Those are the type of paintings which were there in the miniature styles. But here we are talking about folk paintings. So Tanka painting is associated with Himachal Pradesh as well as Arunachal Pradesh, hilly regions, specifically Buddhist monasteries. So now we shall see the details one by one, starting from Madhubani painting. So if you see, Madhubani painting is also referred to as Mithila art, is characterized by line drawings. You can see there are a lot amount of lines which has been drawn. This is a Madhubani painting. These three are Madhubani, characterized by line drawings filled in by bright colors, done only by women of the house. Madhubani painting is not done by males, done by women of the house, the village and the caste, and only on occasions of marriages. They use Madhubani painting in the occasions of marriages. Okay, Madhubani paintings mostly depict nature and Hindu religious motifs, deities and social events. The Khobar Ghar or nuptial chamber was a room in which the paintings were traditionally done. So in the worship area, they used to do the Madhubani painting. Madhubani painting is associated with Bihar. Madhubani painting is also called as Mithila painting. And if you see Madhubani painting is done by women. Similarly, there is an art called Tikuli art. Tikuli art is also from Bihar. Like in a small line in NCERT, they have mentioned about Tikuli art. There is no much detail, but for that purpose, I have given it over here. Tikuli art is associated with Bihar. Okay, so see here, Videha, Tirabhukti, Mithila. These are the places associated with Sita marriage, Biti Chitra, Bihar, and Madhubani painting. So Madhubani painting during the occasion of Sita's marriage or marriage occasions, it will happen. It will be done only by female, and it will be in the nuptial chamber and Khobar Ghar or in the worship space. Tikuli art is also from Bihar. Then we'll speak about Manjusha art. Before getting into the Manjusha art, you should see one important factor. Manjusha art is also a line drawing, but definitely in Manjusha art, there will be a snake. The moment you see a female holding a snake or any snakes in that particular image, you can identify with the color shades. That is a Manjusha art. You see, this is a Manjusha art. In this place, you can see this is a snake kind of head, and you can see a female, and there are two snakes over here. Here also you see that one female is worshipping Lord Shiva, and there is a snake. So Manjusha art predominantly has snake kind of structures. Manjusha art is also called as Angika art. Manjusha art is believed to be the only art form in the history of art form in India which has a sequential representation of the story and is displayed in a series. This is also called as scroll painting. Manjusha art is a folk art of Bhagalpur, Bihar. The name Manjusha is also associated with an elaborate story, a goddess, and also a festival celebrated in Bhagalpur region of Bihar. Manjusha art is the folk art of Ang Pradesh, whereas Madhubani painting is of the Darbang Pradesh. So Manjusha art is associated with Anga Pradesh, hence we call it as Angika art. Okay, Angika art is also called as Manjusha art, associated with Bihar. Madhubani painting, also called as Mithila painting, is also associated with Bihar. Now we go to Varli painting. I told that when I went to Mumbai, I saw Varli painting. The moment I saw it, I can identify it. Nowadays, you can see that majority of the blankets, bed sheets, and chudidar patterns or other kind of cloth screen materials, these paintings come up with Varli painting type. So this is Varli painting. In Varli painting, you can see that Varli has majority of triangles, straight line, triangle, and triangle, and you will have a round factor. You can see that the hand features are made with small lines, and other than that, everything is a round and a triangle. So that is how they have made this painting. Varli is a name of a large tribal group in Maharashtra. So Varli is vivid expression of daily social events of tribe used to embellish the walls of village houses. So in almost all the Varli tribal village houses, I have heard that this kind of painting will be there. Varli is a simple art form depicting social life, uses only one color, that is white. So the background is red or black, predominantly red, and they use only one color in Varli painting, which is white in color. With that white, they will be painting it. So images of human beings and animals along with scenes from daily life are created in a loose rhythmic pattern. You can see that there is a rhythmic pattern of images, rhythmic pattern of branches. Okay, so likewise, that is prepared. In Varli painting, it is rare to see a straight line, but we can see a straight line, but it is very rare. For example, in this tree image, we can't see any straight line. Even in this image, hardly we can see a straight line in this house, and we can see straight lines in the hands. But normally they don't prefer using straight lines. These paintings do not depict mythological characters or images of deities. Okay, but we can't again rule out the entire possibility. This is a Varli painting, and we can always associate this with a mythological character. Then the painting is sacred, and without it, the marriage cannot take place. It is believed that these paintings invoke powers of God. Okay, so this is Varli painting in Maharashtra, which is in western part of India. Now we shall see a very similar painting, just exactly opposite to Maharashtra, in Odisha region. So that is called Saura painting. You can see lot amount of similarity between Saura painting and Varli painting. Varli painting in the west, Saura painting is in the east. Varli painting in Maharashtra, Saura painting in Odisha. Okay. So Saura painting, the Saura tribal painting is a style of wall mural paintings associated with the Sauda tribals of state of Odisha. These paintings of religious significance is very similar to Varli paintings. The Saura wall paintings are called Italons or icons, and are dedicated to Edital, the main deity of the Sauras. People, horses, elephants, sun, and the moon, tree are all the recurring motifs of Saura painting. Icons are worshipped during the special religious and cultural occasions. Okay, like childbirth, harvest, marriage, construction of new houses, likewise. In Saura painting, you can see here we shall see the difference between Varli painting and Saura painting. Saura painting Odisha, Varli painting Maharashtra. In Saura painting, a fishnet approach is used for painting from the border to inwards. But Varli painting, inward to outward. They use from inward to outward. Varli paintings are used conjoint triangles to depict the human body, while here, while the figures are not as sharp delineated in Saura painting. In Saura painting, you can see sharp delineation, and here they use only triangles, but they use multiple forms: triangle, a hexagonal factor, then a round, likewise. In Varli painting, Male and female icons are clearly distinguishable. In Saura art, there is no such physical differentiation. But however, one another factor which I wish to add is Varli painting strictly follows only one color, which is white. But in Saura painting, we can see addition of few more colors. Wherever they could able to add a color, they add a color. So Varli painting in Maharashtra, Saura painting in Odisha, Madhubani painting in Bihar, Manjusha painting in Bihar. Now we shall go to Andhra Pradesh, where we see about Kalamkari painting. Kalamkari painting is again a very famous theme nowadays, which resurrects in the form of sari patterns. Kalamkari saris. Kalamkari painting is also called as Vritapani painting. So Kalamkari painting is also called as Vritapani painting. Okay, Kalamkari, also called as Vritapani from Andhra Pradesh, Kalahasti region and Machilipattinam region. It is a hand painted as well as block printed with vegetable dyes applied on cloth. Mainly related to decorating temple interior with painted cloth panels. So this is not a mural. This is the painting which is drawn on the cloths, and the cloths are used as screens. Developed in the 15th century under the patronage of Vijayanagar rulers. Owing to Muslim rulers in Golconda, the Masulipatinam Kalamkari was widely influenced by Persian motifs and designs. So they have a block. They use the block to print Kalamkari, as well as they use hand-drawn painting types. Okay, fine. Now we move to Fud painting. Fud painting in Rajasthan. Okay, Fud painting, if you see here, there are a lot amount of pots, a procession, a trumpet blowing, likewise. Fud painting from Rajasthan is an animated storytelling painting. So you can see this is a kind of animated storytelling painting. Paintings can be up to 30 feet long and 5 feet wide. So it will be like a very long structure, long sheet of cloth. Okay, the paintings depict heroic deeds and about local deities. The paintings are carried from place to place, accompanied by a traditional singer, that is bard, B-A-R-D, bard, and such people will narrate the theme and the story along with the painting. So it will be like a guided tour where the entire painting will be displayed, and then the painting will be described by the guide who is taking us through the story. The next painting is Kerala, Kalam Eduthu. Kalam means land. Kalam Eduthu means the painting which happens on the floor. So Kalam Eduthu is a ritual painting which is in the form of Rangoli. Okay, so you can see this painting. Normally, this is a very unique form of art found in Kerala. Ritualistic art practiced in temples and sacred groves. If you see, what is a sacred grove? Koil Nelam, that is the temple based land. This temple based land area. Nowadays, there are a lot amount of people who encroach the land, but in Kerala and other specific regions, they protect the temple land because they think that these sacred groves has God living over there. So they live very intact and they are environmentally pure. But although the sacred groves are not statutorily protected under any law, but still it is community based protected area which is called sacred groves. So in sacred groves, to invoke the deity, they will be making these paintings in the floor. Okay, these paintings, if you see, just a second. Okay, so these paintings are made in the floor. The Kalamelitha artists are generally members of a community like Kurups, Theyyambadi Nambiyar and Theyyadi Nambiyar and Theyyadi Unnis. The ritual songs accompanied by a number of instruments, namely Italam, Ilatalam, Veekan Chenda, Kuzhal, Kombu, and Chenda, are sung in worship of the deity on completion of the Kala. And after completion of the ritual, they will be removing the painting from the space. So Kalamelithu is an important painting of Kerala which is used to invoke God. Now we shall see some of the scroll paintings. There are 4 important scroll paintings. So if you see this particular image, in this image you can see this particular dots. The dots comes in the form of a triangle and a extended one. The triangle connects West Bengal, Jharkhand and Odisha, and the line connects it with the Telangana. So this dot is West Bengal, Jharkhand, Odisha, and this is a dot which is there in Telangana. So remember this image so that it is easier to remember the scroll painting. That is Patua painting in Kolkata or the Bengal region, Patachitra in Odisha, Patikar in Jharkhand. So all the three are Patta, that is the paper, scrolls. Okay, so they used to draw it in the scrolls. So Patua painting in West Bengal, Patachitra in Odisha, and Patikar in Jharkhand. Then the same kind of scroll painting in Telangana, it is called as Cheriyal scroll painting. So Patua painting in West Bengal, Patachitra in Odisha, Patikar in Jharkhand, and Cheriyal in Telangana. So Patachitra, what is the other painting which is there in Odisha? Saura painting. So when you speak about Saura, you should also remember Varli painting in Maharashtra. So Patachitra art form is known for its intricate details as well as mythological narratives. Specifically, Patachitra is used in Puri Jagannath temple. Patachitra is in general general term for traditional cloth-based scroll painting in Odisha as well as in West Bengal region. Patua painting, this is a Patua painting of Kalighat, where the painting will be done various, even not only mythological themes, but also political themes like French Revolution and other factors will be painted. The reason is that Bengal region is a hotspot for nationalistic movements and freedom struggle. So they want to inspire people. So if you see that in history class, we studied about a person who will narrate stories by taking this kind of scrolls. When we studied about Ajivika sect, we spoke about Makali Goshala, and Makali comes from Manka. Manka means a bard who narrates a story by carrying a scroll paintings. Okay, so the scrolls, I have explained about in brief about these paintings. So Patua painting of West Bengal region not only has mythological character, but also it has various political images. Then Cheriyal scroll painting. If you see that, if you read Amar Chitrakatha or some kind of story books, you will be having a lot amount of images in the same page. Likewise, if you see that this man is drawing a lot amount of images in the same page. So this is like a story reading. Okay, that is how the Cheriyal scroll paintings are created. So Cheriyal scroll painting is also called as Nakashi art. Nakashi art is also known as Cheriyal scroll painting. So Cheriyal scroll painting is also called as Nakashi art. Kalamkari painting is also called as Vratapani painting. Madhubani painting is also called as Mithila art. Manjusha painting is also called as Angika art. Okay, and the Tikuli art is associated with Bihar. So remember these things, it will happen only by revision. So the scrolls are painted in a narrative format, and which like a film roll or a comic strip, you could able to roll it up, and it will be like a comic strip where you could able to comfortably study Indian mythology from these paintings. Then next one is Patikar painting of Jharkhand. The Patikar painting, also popularly known as scroll paintings of Jharkhand, long been used in storytelling performances and socio-religious customs. So the paintings that belong to this form have a common subject of what happens to be human life after death. So the common theme is about human life after death, whether he will go to hell or to heaven, and what kind of experiences he might have over there. Patikar painting may be considered as a variable of Pata painting, Pata or Patachitra, term used for scroll paintings. Santal tribal people of Jharkhand, Jadu Patwa or Patikar painting is considered to have the capacity to send a wandering soul of the dead to heaven and thus help to free them from all sorts of pains. The next one is the bazaar painting or Kalighat painting. Kalighat painting or Kalighat Pat originated in 19th century West Bengal in the vicinity of Kali temple. The village Patuas and Kumars had worked on mythological themes, and produced images of gods and goddesses. The figures in the Kalighat painting is also a scroll painting, looked flat and rounded. Now Kalighat painters began to use shading to give them a rounded form. Okay, yet the images were not realistic and lifelike. And if you see that the paintings is the uses of a bold, deliberative, non-realistic style, where the figures emerge large, powerful, with a minimum of lines, detail and colors. So this is literally like a unmatured painting types, or sorry, unmatured styles. Okay, then the next one is Tanka painting. Tanka painting is, if you see, which happens in Himachal Pradesh as well as in Arunachal Pradesh. So the major famous Tanka painting is Mandala painting. This is called as Mandalam image. Here also, if you see that there is a Buddha image and it is surrounded by various themes and mandalas. Buddhist paintings on cotton, silk applique, usually depicting a Buddhist deity scene, or Buddhist scene, or Buddhist mandala. Tankas are traditionally kept unframed and rolled up when not on display, mounted on a textile backing, somewhat in the style of Chinese scroll paintings. Tankas serve as an important teaching tool depicting the life of Buddha, various influential lamas and other deities and bodhisattvas. So Tanka painting normally not displayed in the wall. It is rolled up when it is not used, and it is used as a teaching tool. And Tanka painting is associated with Buddhism, and it can be seen in Himachal Pradesh as well as in Arunachal Pradesh. The next one is Pithora painting. Pithora painting in the bordering area of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. The speciality of Pithora is horses. So horses and elephant are the major theme which has been displayed, and this is almost painted in the walls of most of the people living over there. Pithora painting is a significant in people's life. People believe executing Pithora paintings in their homes brings peace, prosperity, and happiness. Interesting fact is that there is never an attempt to imitate nature. They don't draw mountain and other factors. They don't imitate nature. Most prominent of motifs are horse, bull, and elephant, which might be a vision of God. They might try to give a pictorial one. And this is not a very fine art. There is a lot amount of crudity. Pithora painting is a crude, but it is this crudity that adds beauty to this painting. Pithora paintings are more of a ritual than an art form. Then Nirmal painting. Nirmal painting is associated with Telangana. This art form has been derived from a place called Nirmal. The evolution of Nirmal art goes back to the days of Kakatiya dynasty. This art form was practiced in 14th century. What is the one another painting form which we saw in Telangana? Cheriyol scroll painting. In Andhra Pradesh, we saw Kalamkari or Vritapani paintings. This art was practiced in the 14th century by a group of artisans who are known as Nakash. Okay, so with this we are done with the painting, and this is the last slide in which I have listed the list of paintings which have received the geographical indication mark. The list of paintings which received geographical indication marks are Madhubani painting of Bihar, Kangra painting of Himachal Pradesh, Mysore traditional painting of Karnataka, Paithani saris and fabrics of Maharashtra, Varli painting of Maharashtra, Tanjavur painting Tamil Nadu, Nirmal painting Telangana, Cheriyol painting Telangana. Okay, so this session is I know that this is a very long session, but however, this is an important one. So after seeing it once, you just try quickly scrolling up and answering by seeing the images of this video, and then you review the content which I share it with you people. Okay, thank you so much for your intent listening. See you in the next video. Thank you.